And now, the joy of analyzing with Bob Ross. Morning, boys and girls. It's so happy to be back here working with you. And I got an email from my friend. His name's SpongeBob. He lives in Happy Little Pineapple under the sea with his friend Patrick, who doesn't always make the right decisions, but they're not mistakes, just happy little accidents. And SpongeBob wanted to do a tropical piece today, so I've got my happy little SpongeBob tie on, and well, let's just clear our minds of all our thoughts and worries, and just throw ourselves into this analysis of this tropical piece. Let's get started. As you can see, Mr. Pastor, your wonderful English teacher, has given me access to your Google Classroom. And don't forget to do your vocabulary, word parts, and spelling tests. There's no formalization part today because you're working on this. All right, let's just dive right on in. Oh, the colors we'll be using today are the only two colors that matter, boys and girls. Three-peat, championship, SOC, orange. Congratulations, boys soccer team. Steely, cold, black for the Orange and Black of Wheelersburg. That's right. I may be a kind soul, but I know championship caliber when I see it. All right, English 2, and let's all go to classwork, boys and girls, and just move our happy little mouse all over. He needs a friend. So let's have our friend for our happy little mouse. See him right there? Just scurrying hither and thither. Either and yon. Don't forget that vocabulary, spelling, word parts exercise. And let's click on Antojos. Get into it. You've got the PDF and a happy little answer document, but you're not going to use that one. Watch me go through this attached passage and then upload a photo of your answer document, boys and girls, so you'll need some type of piece of paper and you'll need a pen or a pencil. If that's an issue, just send Mr. Pastor a happy little felicitous email. Let's click on it, please. I'm going to pull up my answer document first because I'm presenting to you, so you need to be able to see. It's not fun if you're not able to see. I spent a lot of my life doing somebody else's work, and I felt like I couldn't see. But I'm not blind anymore because I paint. So we've got our happy little answer document there that I'm going to use for you. Here's our happy little passage, just like yesterday. You can do all kinds of sorts of things any way you like. One thing, go to Adobe Acrobat, open this up, and let's take a look. Remember, boys and girls, we always look at the questions first. Oh, well, look at that, number 5. Looks like we start with number 5 instead of number 1, but that's not a mistake. It's just a happy little accident. It's not a failure when you get the pages out of order, and failure's not always bad. It just means you got room to grow. So I hope you have a little bit of room to grow every day. Let's go to number 1. Based on the passage's descriptive details, where does this happy little story take place? Well, now, we'll probably have to read the passage to do that. So on your answer document, wrong one. I forgot to pull that thing off there. That's okay. You'll have to circle number 1. Let's keep going. Number 2, this passage most prominently features which elements of fiction? Boy, we're going to have to think about that. Let's put a circle or star, if that's what you prefer, since it's kind of a weird question. but we're not going to judge. Number 3, which statement best suggests the source of Yolanda's frustration? You know, people, I worked as a drill sergeant for 20 years. And I know a lot about frustration. And, well, Yolanda will too. The term long arm, lines 65 to 66, provides an example of which literary device, boys and girls. Let's dive right into that. Line 65. Oops. There we go. Line 65, right here. Oop, got a little bit of that drill sergeant voice. As if the woman had turned into the long arm of her family. Now, the question starts with the phrase, long arm. It doesn't start with as if. It starts with long arm. So I know you're thinking. I know what you're thinking. Bob Ross had a friend that used to say that. I know what you're thinking. But it's not a simile. The woman is the long arm. Comparison between two unlike things. Well, boys and girls, that sounds like that's going to be a happy little metaphor. So let's go to our answer document. So lonely, so forlorn in the world. And let's just put a nice letter B there. That's right. We've got one out of the way. Let's get back into it. Number 5. According to the passage, why does Yolanda laugh at the boy's name? We can do that while we read it, boys and girls. Let's go to our happy little answer document. Put a line next to 5. There you go, just a happy little line. You know, just growing out of the side of the page like a happy little tree. And let's put a little clue there. Laugh. Why does Yolanda laugh? There we go. Let's get back in here. Number 6. In Spanish, Doña is a title of courtesy that means lady. Like Lady of the Morning by Styx. What does the repetition of the word Doña suggest about the old woman's attitude towards Yolanda? We'll have to get into that after we get into it. So let's go here. Look at that first, just happy little paragraph, just spry on the page. So full of life. Let's point it out. An old woman emerged at last from a shack behind the cabana, buttoning up a torn, happy little house dress, followed closely by a little boy who kept ducking behind her whenever Yolanda smiled at him. Asking his name just drove him further into the folds of the old woman's skirt. Now, we got a cabana here and a happy little boy, but we don't really have enough to answer any of our happy little questions yet. So we're just gonna have to keep on plugging along with it. You must excuse him, Doña, she apologized. He's not used to being among people. But Yolanda knew the old woman meant not the people in the village, but the people with money who drove through Altamira to the beaches on the coach. I told you I had a tropical one today. So that can help us with question 1. Your name, the old woman repeated, as if Yolanda hadn't asked him in Spanish. The little boy mumbled at the ground. Speak up, the old woman scolded. Brings back memories of being a drill sergeant. But her voice betrayed pride, and she spoke up for him. This little know-nothing is Jose Duarte Sanchez Imea Garcia. That's a long name, boys and girls. I prefer names with one syllable for the first name, one syllable for the last. Just a happy little syllable. Just comes right out at you. Yolanda laughed. Ha! Not only were those a lot of names for such a little boy, but they were momentous. The surnames of the 3 liberators of the country. Now we're at line 25. That's a good place to stop. Let's look at number 1. We got a cabana. We're near the coastline. It's hot. Could be A. There's a beach. Not a desert. Not a mountain range, although I do love to paint happy little mountains. Deforested rural area near the equator. There's a beach. So there's water. So there's coast. So we're going to go with A for that one, boys and girls. Just put a happy little A there. Look at it standing out like it won the SOC last night or something. Let's get back. Get back to where we belong. Why does she laugh? I think that was number 5, correct? Why does she laugh? There it is. Why does she laugh at the name? Is it too long and difficult for the boy to pronounce? No, it has something to do with the liberators. It's long, yes. Seems extravagant. Well, there we go. For someone so young. And we can look at the other two and see that they're obviously wrong. After all, D says A when it was 3 people. So we're going to go with happy little B just buzzing along for number 5. There we go. And now we're ready to have some fun. Let's get back going. We've still got 3 questions left to go. And we were on line 25, which is 5 squared. I'm not too slow. Can I serve the doña in any way, the woman asked. Yolanda gave the tree line beyond the woman's shack a glance. You think you might have some guavas around? Oh, I like painting with guavas. Just that guava color green. It's a lot brighter than sinus infection green. The old woman's face scrunched up. Guavas? She murmured and thought to herself a second. Why, they're all around, doña, but I can't say as I've seen it. That's a lot of fun, just beating the devil out of that up arrow key. All right. With your permission, Jose Duarte had joined a group of little boys who came out of nowhere and were milling around the car. They came out of nowhere like an RKO, boasting how many automobiles they'd ridden in. At Yolanda's mention of the guavas, he sprung forward, pointing across the road towards the summit of the western hills. I know where there's a whole grove of them. Behind him, his little companions nodded. Go on, then, his grandmother stamped her foot, as if she were scatting a little animal. A few boys dashed across the road, disappeared up a steep path on the hillside. But before Jose could follow, Yolanda called him back. She wanted to go along, too. After all, who doesn't want to just pick a happy little guava, just sitting there in its nice little cozy nest of a tree? And next thing you do, you just bite right on into that guava. Let's go back and bite right on into that passage. She wanted to go along too, line 55. The little boy looked towards his grandmother, unsure of what to think. The old woman shook her head. The doña would get hot. Her nice clothes would get all dirty. Jose would get the doña as many guavas as she was wanting. Well, that's got to be a letdown for her, but everything's just a learning experience, a happy little learning experience. But they taste so much better when you've picked them yourself. Yolanda's voice had an edge, for suddenly it was as if the woman had turned into the long arm of her family, keeping her away from seeing her country on her own. Let's go back now. Look at our answer document. We've got to do number 2, number 3, and number 6. So if we look at number 2, the passage most prominently features which elements? Well, I don't know if there's much of a moral there. Not really sure. I know there's dialogue, and I know there's an antagonist because the old woman boy, I had a happy little verbal accident there. She won't allow Yolanda to pick her own guavas. So we definitely need that antagonist. And there's description of the trees and the guavas, boys and girls. There's not much action. Again, not much action. You look at A, C, and D. They all have something in common, boys and girls. They're happy little accidents, but they're still wrong. So we'll go with B for number 2. Number 3, which statement best suggests the source of Yolanda's frustration in the passage? Well, I think it would be the old woman that won't let her pick her own guavas. It's not A. That's the boy's frustration, or at least his anxiety, and that's okay. Not seeing any guavas, that's really not frustration. That's just a little bit of wonder. We all need a little wonder to get us through our life, boys and girls. The doña would get hot, her nice clothes would get all dirty. Well, yes, those are reasons why she shouldn't pick the guavas, but that's not the source of the prevention, boys and girls. The long arm of her family. Oh no, Rejected again. That's gotta be frustrating. So many happy little accidents become unhappy little frustrations. So we'll go with D. We'll put number 3 with D. We just got one more left, boys and girls, before I add another question. There we are, number 6. In Spanish, doña is a title of courtesy that means lady. What does the repetition of the word doña suggest about the old woman's attitude towards Yolanda? Well, Yolanda's not shy. She's the one who talks. She is polite to Yolanda. Yolanda has money, boys and girls. But that's really not accurate, because it's not about being nervous around visitors. So A and B are both wrong. Let's keep going. She acknowledges Yolanda's wealthy status. Yep, that looks pretty good. Yolanda's awkwardness? No. It has nothing to do with being awkward around old people. Old people are our friends, boys and girls. They go and have their grandchildren get guavas for us. It's a beautiful thing. But D is still wrong. Because Yolanda's not awkward. She's just wealthy. And she can't go pick her own guavas because of that. Wow. Talk about first world problems. So we'll go with C for number 6. And then I'm going to add a happy little question, boys and girls, for number 7. And I want you to answer this as I type it. Hopefully you can still hear me. Happy little accident. How does the author want you to characterize and view Yolanda in this passage? What type of person does the author portray her to be? Utilize and analyze one quote from the passage to support your response. And I'll make that nice and big and boldface and Arial, because that's the font, so you can see it. How does the author want you to view Yolanda in this passage, boys and girls? What type of person does the happy little author portray her to be? Utilize and analyze one happy little quote from the happy little passage to support your happy little response. I'm Bob Ross, and this has been The Joy of Analyzing with Bob Ross.